of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. Unfortunately, we have a president that doesn't know the first thing about negotiation. We have a real problem in the White House. So, I believe that he will attack Iran sometime prior to the election because he thinks that's the only way he can get elected. Isn't it pathetic?
You know, I've said before, I think Obama will go to war with Iran because I think he views it as good politically, and that's pretty sad, and it's a pretty sad thing to have to say, but I think he will absolutely go to war with Iran. I think he views that as a positive from a political standpoint, and I think he's just waiting for the right moment. And I think Iran better be damn careful because they are overplaying their hand just like Gaddafi and just like Saddam Hussein.
And at some point, there's no question, as sure as you're sitting here, unless something else happens first, like somebody wanting to get elected, and the only way he's going to do it is to start a war with Iran. Because I tell you what, if Iran isn't negotiating now, they got to be crazy. Because they are sitting, and I said this the other day, they are sitting on hot timber. They are really crazy if they're not negotiating. And by the way, they do, in my opinion, want to negotiate. But we may have somebody that wants to have war because he doesn't want to accept a negotiation, which could turn out to be much stronger than war, and you could make a much better deal than war, but it may be good politics. So I actually blogged the other day. I love this twittering and tweeting. I love it because, you know, I'm bigger than the New York Times. I got millions of people. It's like I own the New York Times. It's crazy. It's crazy. That's called the New Age. You know, I always wanted to own a newspaper. Now I own a newspaper and it didn't cost me anything. It's unbelievable. So I did say, though, that I predict there's a very good chance that we'll end up in a war with Iran, because I think it's politically possibly a positive for Obama, even though it's not a good thing for our country.
I don't want to see wars. I don't want to see wars. I was in no wars other than we finished a war with ISIS, and we completed it, 100% complete. But I don't want to see wars. I think it's so horrible, so unnecessary, so costly in terms of lives and money in that order, and destroying these countries. You know, you're destroying culture. When you look at Ukraine, that would have never happened if I were president. You look at the October 7th attack on Israel, it would have never happened. I will tell you, you're not going to have a war with me, and you're not going to have a third world war with me. That I can tell you.
It's pretty crazy to hear him say those words now as we watch bombs strike over Israel, Tel Aviv here. Mr. Luis Cayetano, how are you, sir?
I'm all right.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Gabriel Speaks podcast. If this is your first time here, make sure you hit like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Louise, I'm so glad you're back on the show because the world seems like it's on fire right now.
Mm-hmm. Multiple fires.
Yes. What is going on? I mean, what do you think has triggered all of this? I mean, potential World War III?
Yeah, megalomania and malignant narcissism.
I can believe it.
Yeah.
I can believe it.
Strategically thought out. It's more of it kind of is an amplification of Trump's psychological traits, and everyone's paying the price now.
It's a shame to see, like, I know just recently there's been developments where the United Arab Emirates and I think it's Saudi are talking about involvement. Russia came out just, I think, within the last 24 hours and said something to the effect of they want Iran to end the war. But didn't, of course, didn't really pick a side. But it's a lot of people are noting it's probably because Russia does a lot of business with Iran, and so they don't want to see Iran totaled.
Hmm. And it's not clear, like, if somebody were to ask, like, why is this war happening? It's the answer is not clear, even to Trump. But I would say, following the analysis of some other people who know much more about this than I do, that there's different groups which have an interest in this war, which have Trump's ear. And it's not just Israel and Bibi, it's also other, I think, as we've seen hints of Christian eschatological end times types, but also just Trump's sycophants. Even if they don't personally want this war, they are not, resisting it either. So that just gives him a green light to just do whatever he wants. But I think it's kind of a culmination of what's been happening. So we saw with Venezuela, that was a successful operation in terms of, snatching the leader. And that might have given Trump kind of a lot of confidence that he could just go in and
seemed crazy, right? Like, just kidnap a country's president? Like, I remember when I was in the service, the Geneva Code, one of the rules in the Geneva Convention is, like, you can't kill another country's leader, and I would assume kidnap goes along with that. Although it doesn't specifically state that. It does say you can't just go and assassinate another country's leader, which we've now done.
Yeah.
We've kidnapped one and we've killed one.
Yeah. And that is just now done out in the open. So that's a horrible precedent for the world, because everybody now thinks that they can, follow suit.
Right.
And so it's, the Wild West now, which goes along with Trump's, disdain for international conventions and limits on presidential authority.
Yeah. God. It's interesting because we started the video with your with one of your recent videos that you've had on your channel, Vector of Knowledge. And if y'all aren't subscribed, make sure you go subscribe. It was a breakdown of what's going on now with Trump announcing war in Iran. And then after that, it's all the times before he became president and even after he became president the first time saying, I don't want wars. I want us out of wars. And even in the first couple months of his current presidency, it seemed like he was going around the world brokering peace. I was like, oh my God, when did Trump turn into Jimmy Carter? He's brokering all these peace deals, but getting us into things. Like, all of a sudden we're blowing up boats. All of a sudden we're in it with Venezuela. All of a sudden we're in war with Iran, even though it's not even a legal war because you didn't declare war, which means you didn't get permission from the people. Right? Which means, it's a terrorist action. So because of the Patriot Act, they can do whatever they want. That's how that works, right? They just label somebody a terrorist and they don't have to ask the country to go to war.
Seems like it. Yeah. Although at least Bush had the decency to at least make a show of, pretending that it's legal.
Yeah,
Other countries through the United Nations, right? The Security Council, build a coalition. Trump is kind of asking for that, like demanding that other countries, especially those in NATO, contribute to keeping the Strait of Hormuz open.
Right.
But other countries have mostly, said that they don't want to be part of this, because Trump is essentially just demanding, like a child, that everybody else come in and clean up his mess for him.
Sure. Instead of asking permission, he's asking forgiveness, essentially.
Yeah, and trying to extort forgiveness, actually, not just asking for it. It's saying that the US might pull out of NATO if the European countries don't come and, join in.
Oh, man. Yeah. But he's threatened NATO and the UN for a long time. Of course, it's hard to say if he's bluffing or not, because he's done some things that have really surprised me. I mean, the first time we bombed Iran, it surprised me. And this really surprises me. I thought they've been trying to push a president into Iran for 50 years. Like, we're okay. It's not going to happen. Clearly, they don't have a good enough case. But they got this guy to go for it.
He doesn't really care about the case because Iran actually agreed, I think, to the most stringent demands of the nuclear deal just before Trump's State of the Union. Mm-hmm. And Trump said that Iran never said the magic words or the secret words, that will categorically never pursue nuclear weapons. The foreign minister of Iran said exactly that just before the State of the Union. So that was a lie.
Yes.
And so they struck Iran anyway, which also contradicts the narrative of the previous strike last year on the nuclear facilities, because they said that they had knocked out Iran's capabilities. So why hit them again if Iran was already neutralized?
Yeah, I think he said obliterated.
Yeah, he loved the word obliterated, by the way. He's using it more and more. He's obliterating with common sense. That's for sure.
We obliterated their ability to create nuclear weapons, but we have to go to war with them a few months later.
Yeah. And weird. Iran is showing that it can expand the war horizontally. As Robert Pape is a commentator, he's noted this, that Iran doesn't really have the capability to go toe-to-toe with America in terms of, conventional warfare, but it can create chaos in the region, strike soft target, destabilize the world economy by hitting oil infrastructure, which I think is why the Arab states, which are allied with the U.S., I don't think they wanted this either, because they know that they knew that Iran would go for their oil, facilities and wreck their economies. So I think even Saudi Arabia was hesitant about this.
Well, those countries around them, surrounding them, allies or not, have all faced missile attacks from Iran, right?
Yeah. And some domestic trouble as well, like the Shia population in Oman, I think. There have been riots there because they don't want to. I think it's a majority Shia country. It could be a large minority, but anyway, there's a large Shia population there. They don't want to be part of this war because they see it as Israel's war, whether or not it is. That's how they view it. So that's a really.
I think a lot of people see it that way right now.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I've always been a proponent of let's just stay out of other people's business unless it involves us, in a way that matters. And I just don't know. I do, in a degree, feel like what we are doing is the frontline work for another country. Like, if Israel wants to have this fight, let them have this fight. You know what I mean? Like, we supply them with more than enough weapons and equipment and training and everything else.
Meant to be for their self-defense, but they're conducting long-range offensive operations. Did you hear Secretary of State Rubio's ridiculous statement that America had to get involved because America knew that if Israel attacked Iran first, then Iran would attack American targets in retaliation. So we had to go in before Iran could do that. So that's admitting that Israel is driving it, either that or that America is not coordinating with Israel, but they're still going to go along with them anyway.
Right. It doesn't seem to make much sense. That's for sure. Wow. So what do you see playing out there in the region? So we're 4 weeks into the fighting? Operation Epic Nuts or whatever. What's it called? Epic
Epstein Fury.
Operation Epstein Fury. Yes, that's a great one.
Somebody made the comment. There could be an element of truth in this. That the reason that it was called Epstein Fury, Epic Fury, is because if people type into a search engine, they type in Operation Ep. it's going to bring up. Oh, sorry. If they just type in "ep," it's going to bring up Epstein. But if it's epic, it's going to divert to epic instead.
Wow. Right. Of course. I mean, yeah, they're going to try to bury the stuff as much as possible. And you can do that when you have money like that. You can definitely bury stuff on the internet. It can be done. Google, you can say, even if you're not using Google search engine, in a way you still are, because most websites are one way or another tied to Google, like 90-something% of them are. So it takes a lot of effort to not have Google be involved in some kind of way in what you're doing, electronically anyway. So that's a pretty big network.
Yeah.
So as far as the leadership now in Iran, let me play this for you. This happened just today.
To the ongoing military operations in Iran. The United States military continues to decimate the terrorist Iranian regime's offensive and defensive capabilities. Just over 3 weeks in, it's abundantly clear that Operation Epic Fury has been a resounding military triumph. More than 9,000 enemy targets have been struck to date. Compared to the start of the operation, Iran's ballistic missile attacks and drone attacks are down by roughly 90%.
Well, that's good. Ballistic missile attacks and drone attacks are down.
Yeah, but in order for the Iranians to keep the strait closed, they just have to hit a few tankers, and the rest don't want to go through.
And the threat has to be there, right? Like some of them, like right now, a lot of them just aren't going to drive their, billion-dollar ships in there because there's a threat of them getting blown to pieces. Did you hear anything about this gift Trump referenced?
A gift? No.
So we might cover it later, but I think he said it either this morning or last night. He said that whoever is in charge in Iran, and it's a secret contact according to Trump, gave him a gift, a very special gift, a very expensive gift related to oil and gas. So, but then you have, like, we're going to see here in a moment, we'll see towards the end of this, what they're saying is Iran's current leader. At least for the military.
The United States is also annihilating the Iranian regime's navy. We have destroyed more than 140 of their naval vessels, including almost 50 mine layers. This is the largest elimination of a navy over a 3-week period since World War II. Again, let me reiterate, this is the largest elimination of a navy on the face of the planet in a 3-week period since World War II.
Somebody told her to do that. That's like it's not even relevant, really. Iran's navy is not the issue here. Like, they don't need a navy. Ukraine barely has a navy, and they can strike Russian warships, and they've neutralized a bunch of those.
Mm-hmm. You can do it with drones.
Drones, boat drones as well. But the thing is that the U.S. often highlights the tactical military successes. We've killed this many enemy soldiers or destroyed this many whatever missile sites, but that's not
like it's a data sheet in a corporation.
Yeah. They did the same in Vietnam all the way through, each week saying we've killed this many VC or NVA, but like they lost the war eventually. I'm not saying America will lose this war, but there's a strategic layer that Levitt, God bless her, is not really. It's not even a thought in her head.
Yeah, well, she can't. She's not allowed. I mean, obviously, she's not allowed to kick her own thoughts around that head. And you make a good point with the statistics and in Vietnam, and there are some pretty gruesome things done to keep those statistics up in Vietnam. We find out down the road too. Towns of innocent people just getting wiped out to get those numbers up. Really, that's who we want to be? I don't think so.
Yeah, and Pete Kegsbreath is
Department of War.
Yeah, he sounds like a child. What everything he says is completely ridiculous, and I'm sure that you know better than I do. It goes against the laws of war. He's saying that
it's
no quarter given. That's not how it works. That's not how it should work anyway.
No, the whole thing is like, you exercise strength through compassion. You know what I mean? Like, we know what we're capable of. And so let's show some compassion, and see where that gets us. Like, why not? You have the power to do all this terrible stuff. But why? Why do all this terrible stuff? It's a terrible way to look at things. And in fact, we have a highlight coming up here in a little bit where Hegseth is talking about dropping bombs in Iran. So good stuff. Good stuff.
From the outset, President Trump and the Department of War estimated it would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to achieve this critical mission. 25 days in, the greatest military the world has ever known is ahead of schedule and performing exceptionally.
See, speaking of corporate spreadsheets, like that, is that not what that sounds like?
Yeah.
4 weeks in, we're ahead of schedule. Give me a break.
Day by day, the Iranian regime is being crippled, and their ability to threaten the United States and our allies is being significantly weakened. Their ambitions of building a nuclear weapon have also been crushed to an even greater degree than they were in Operation Midnight Hammer in June 2025. That's why you're beginning to see the regime look for an exit ramp. They recognize they are being crushed, their ability to attack American and ally forces, as well as their ability to defend their own territory is dwindling literally hour by hour. Following President Trump's powerful threat on Saturday evening, it was made clear to the United States that Iran wanted to talk. President Trump is willing to listen.
Well, Iranian officials have responded to Trump's latest comments about negotiations with defiance. In a new statement, a spokesman for the armed forces said Iran would never compromise with the United States.
Do not call your defeat an agreement. The era of your promises is over. Today, the world has two fronts, truth and falsehood. And every freedom-seeking person will not be deceived by the waves of your media. Has the level of your internal conflicts reached the point where you are negotiating with yourselves? There will be no sign of your investments in the region, nor will you see the previous prices of energy and oil until you understand this. Stability in the region is guaranteed by the powerful hand of our armed forces. Stability comes through power.
So it sounds like someone that wants to negotiate.
Yeah, exactly. I have to say, Iran's been pretty astute in its media and propaganda campaign. So the way that they've kind of leveraged the Epstein crisis, the Epstein, saga, and the political crisis that's caused for Trump, and parlaying that into this war to, kind of reflect the mood among a lot of the American electorate as well, that this was an unnecessary war and that it doesn't defend anybody's interest except for the Epstein class. Right.
Yeah. There's definitely a intelligence gathering aspect to social media, and maybe even influence, through social media. And I think definitely that's happening, but figuring out what they're trying to urge people to do, that's the hard part, right? I know, and there's that classic example where there was they had found out these pretty much ghost accounts had set up a demonstration on one side of the street of Black Lives Matter and a demonstration on the other side of the street of pro-Trump protesters. Literally had set that up to try to start some kind of a fight or something. And they believe that those were probably bot accounts that were foreign actors. So yeah, I mean, a lot of what we hear, who knows how much of it was real. I've heard people say the videos on Bibi coming out are AI.
Yeah, wasn't there somebody put out a fake story that Bibi had died?
There was even a video that showed them in like this bunker and it crashed down on top of them or whatever, but it like complete AI. So I know, at least I believe I know his brother died in a missile attack. I think that has been reported on and is known, but
Bibi's brother or
Bibi's brother. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He died in a missile attack. It's weird. There was one video they put out of him that was definitely AI. But then the video they put out to show it wasn't AI and that he was fine, he like takes a sip from this cup. He even says like, look, I have 5 fingers like on each hand. But then when he takes a sip from this cup and then like brings this cup down, like it's like hasn't gone down any, it's like still filled to the brim and like he's moving it all around, but it doesn't spill anywhere. Just weird, like not normal. So you wonder what they're doing there, if he's dead or if they're just trying to throw off Iranian intelligence trying to figure out where he is by saying, oh, look, he's broadcasting this video from this location right here. So that's where he is. And really he's across town or whatever. Who knows? I mean, this is chess. And these guys are definitely playing to win, both sides. Iranian has been supporting Hamas, lobbing RPGs into Israel for how long?
Yeah, for
like
many decades, I guess.
Yeah.
Also, Hezbollah in Lebanon, which Israel has now invaded.
Really, in Lebanon?
Yeah. So, well, an interesting thing I've noted is that when the media talks about Israel invading Lebanon, they call it Israeli troops have crossed the border into Lebanon.
Ah, yes. You do hear that quite frequently, don't you?
Yeah. But it is, I think they're trying this time probably to really go for the greater Israel expansion, which I think Bibi is a big fan of, and certainly people around him, they've pushed for that for a long time.
Now, pardon my ignorance, but what is the greater Israel expansion?
So it's like that Israel would claim territories adjacent to it, like in Syria, the Golan Heights. I think they already control that. Parts of Lebanon, southern Lebanon, and possibly into Egypt as well.
So not the entire countries, but parts of other countries?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
And, set up proxies or at least leaderships which are not going to be hostile to Israel and, the Arab states. So kind of like a local hegemony of a sort with American backing.
Man. I mean, they really are. They're trying, it seems like they're trying to play this they're making a critical move in this very long-term game that they've kind of mapped out, it seems like.
It's also caused quite a division within MAGA. So a lot of younger, I think like below 30 years old MAGA people, they don't agree with this involvement with Israel, that America should not be sending weapons and money there or getting involved in their wars. But then you've got like the war hawks, which are very in favor of it for their own reasons as well. Part of it is the, as I mentioned, the end times Christians. So end times dispensationalism is believed by many people close to Trump who want to erode separation of church and state. They also want to support Israel because they see it as the a means to a biblical prophetic fulfillment. So they see Israel as like the key to getting Christ to return. The funny thing there is that a lot of these people see Israel basically as their cuck, whereas Israel sees them as their cuck. So like they're trying to cuck each other.
Couple of cucks. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. So now, that sort of Christian evangelical involvement, right, in American politics, even though Trump himself doesn't have a religious bone in his body, he does like, cater to that side of the aisle because it's a big voter base. And so, different issues like abortion, anti-woke and all that stuff, Trump will cater to that to get their support.
It's, it's interesting because I've been dabbling a little bit in like just different people that would like practice the occult, like Parsons and stuff like that. Maybe not practice, but into. Some of them practice, just would depend, I guess, on the person. But nowadays, it seems like the extremist version of Satan worship is like push the world closer to end times, right? Because that will bring Satan back. And then you have the evangelical right or whatever thinking Babylon's going to come. And so therefore the world getting pushed into chaos. And so it's almost like we have both sides are agreeing, what you would say light and dark or good and bad or whatever label you want to give to it, yin and yang coming together for this one thing.
But
let's end it.
Who are the Satanists?
You got groups like O9A. You got groups like, not the traditional Satanist guy from San Francisco, but the one Aquino spun off from Aquino.
How much policy influence do they have?
Policy influence? I don't know. In the 60s, I don't think much.
But, I mean, they don't have much of I don't think they've got much influence over Trump. So
No.
So it's just
I'm just pointing out like the fact that you have evangelical right and then crazy saint worshipers. It seems like they're both pushing towards the same thing.
Yeah, there's a certain eschatological. Well, we'll get to this when we talk about Professor Jang, who I think is kind of a fraud. But he did have a video about. Well, there's better videos about this anyway, and there's Jim Stewartson's piece about the eschatological aspect of these different factions. Mm-hmm. But he talks about obviously the Christian evangelicals and Zionists. There's also the Jewish Zionists, which have sort of their own apocalyptic or end times vision. Then there's like the technological transcendentalists, like Musk and Thiel. Yeah. And they've got their own eschatology, which has to do with replacing humanity with robots and AI and the digital superintelligence. And they often go for this thing called accelerationism, which is like if you burn everything down, they get to pick up the pieces and then remold the world in the way that they
see fit. Which is the same thing groups like O9A believe.
I don't know much about O9A, but
there was I think there was a story done on them. It was like a few years back about this. I can't remember if he was a Marine or a soldier. And then there was also in 1999 the London bombings. It was a person that was using it was like a homemade bomb with like nails in it and shit. Killed 3, injured about 100. That person was from the O9A. Let me see.
Is it a neo-Nazi type of organization?
Yes, it's a very like white supremacist type group. So here's the kid from the military that got in trouble technically. Attempted murder, providing material support to terrorists, and illegally transmitting national defense information. And he was deployed, and O9A sent him on this mission to, because they're about accelerating the bat. So if they can get this soldier to go over there and join forces with the other side and kill his own soldiers and stuff, that's great for them.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get them too much because I've been told they will mess with you. So Professor Jang, though,
show folks that back.
I got no problem messing with this guy. So here's Professor Jang. Let's check him out here. There's just a couple highlights here.
I wanted to show folks that back in 2024, you made 3 big predictions. 1, that Trump would win. 2, that he would start a war with Iran. and 3, that the U.S. would lose that war. Let's take a listen to that.
In this class this semester, I'm making 3 big predictions, right? First is that Trump will win in November. Second is that the United States will go to war against Iran. And the third big prediction is that the United States will lose this war, which will forever change the global order. Apparently, 20% of all American white girls in their 20s are on OnlyFans, something like that. All right? I'm not sure if you've heard this, but just the idea that you have a percentage of American white girls in the 20s all on OnlyFans, that's just incredible to think about, okay? And you know, like the people joke that that's what America wants to do. America wants to liberate Iranian women so that they can go on OnlyFans and enjoy American corruption and decadence, right? So the Roman Empire, when it declined, the main problem was that women refused to have children.
The Bolsheviks stole everything in order to finance the war, okay? And in the process, by destroying their tradition, by destroying their wealth, by destroying their religion, by destroying the nobility, it made the Soviet Union now much more amenable to capitalism.
I wanted to show folks.
Yeah, Soviet Union loved capitalism.
Yeah, there's like so much convoluted crap in there. But the first, obviously, like Trump did win 2024, and he did go to war in Iran. But many people were predicting this.
Chris Bledsoe.
Yeah.
Not hard to predict that we were going to get into a fight with Iran, y'all.
Yeah.
It's like predicting that the sun's going to be warm one day.
And whether, you know, it's possible that America will lose on a strategic level this conflict, as has happened in the past, you know, with lesser powers like in Vietnam. But the other claims he made there, what was the other one? Oh, about OnlyFans, the white girls.
20% of American white girls are on OnlyFans.
I don't know if that's, I haven't looked into that, whether that's true or not, but let's say that it is. It did strike me, his comments about liberating Iranian women so that they could do that as well. That seems a little bit misogynistic, because Iranian women are actually under, you know, very heavy restrictions.
Sharia law, right?
Yeah. Not as bad as in Saudi Arabia, but still, you know, very severe curtailment on their freedom. But, you know,
not as bad as where one of our allies is.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, Trump didn't launch the war to liberate Iranian women.
He launched the war to liberate Iranian oil, is what he launched the war for.
Yeah. And the other one was about the Russian Revolution. That doesn't make any sense.
The Bolsheviks brought Russia closer to capitalism.
Maybe when the Soviet Union collapsed, that was like 70 years later. So the argument is that the Romanov dynasty was done away with by the Bolsheviks so that Wall Street could claim, and the Bank of London, I think, could claim the money owned, you know, in the holdings of the Romanov dynasty.
Right.
But you know,
go ahead.
So convoluted. This sort of, it's actually kind of a white supremacist conspiracy theory, and also anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. This idea that the Russian Revolution was just a big money or Wall Street operation. Because if you think about all the coups and covert operations that the U.S. has been involved in the 20th century to crush communism and anything that even smelled of communism, doesn't make sense that they would, you know, presumably he thinks that the U.S. throughout the Cold War was controlled by Wall Street and these secret bankers. So why would they usher in the Bolsheviks, but then do everything possible to destroy communism around the world? And so that does make sense.
Right. And so you wrote a little piece on the professor here. What were kind of some of your bullet points about Professor Jang?
Because Jang pushes a lot of pseudo-history and pseudo-archaeology. like saying that
Right.
the Punic Wars and the siege of Carthage never happened. He also
Really?
pushes anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. He doubts the Holocaust happened. He says that there's no concrete evidence for the Holocaust.
What? What about Auschwitz?
Yeah, exactly.
There's like a building standing there. Well, what's left of it.
He claims that Hitler was only interested in keeping Germany free from transnational capital, and that the reason that transnational capital attacked Germany is because he stood up to them. Yeah, so initially I was kind of enamored by one of his videos. I think it was about Iran or some other related topic, where I thought he was speaking a lot of sense. So I didn't really, look into him too much. But then I saw things like on the edges, which made me think, is this guy really for real? And then there was like proper debunk videos by people that I can vouch for.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like when they say like Alex Jones is a genius because he was right about these few things, and it's like, well, if you just threw shit at a wall all day, like some of it's gonna stick, you know. That's kind of what I thought of.
And there I mentioned that, and sorry, I don't know if you can hear that lawnmower outside.
Slightly, you're good though.
Okay. This guy Jiang is actually a Christian fanatic, but he kind of pushes a weird heretical type of Christianity. He says that Christ is the emanation or outgrowth, something like that, of the monad. So this sort of esoteric, kind of strange, heterodox idea would not be accepted by most Christians. And it sort of reminds me of something that Mike Flynn did. So Mike Flynn is kind of the high priest of QAnon.
Yeah, you mentioned him in here, right?
Yeah. Jim Stewartson actually compiled video there of Flynn basically reciting word for word the I am activities, or an I am activity offshoot. This cult leader, I forget her name, Elizabeth Prophet, well named, but she was actually, she had these sort of incantation type of messages, and then Flynn was basically just copying them in front of a Christian MAGA audience. Right. So essentially, the really creepy thing there is that he's actually condemning those people to hell, because her cult was theosophically inspired. Theosophy, Helena Blavatsky, this sort of New Age religion that. And so that's the origins of that, or an offshoot of that. And so Flynn is just plagiarizing a theosophically inspired cult and then just kind of tweaking it a little bit for a Christian audience. But I think it wouldn't surprise me to learn that Jiang is doing the same sort of thing. Some people have speculated that he could be a Chinese communist psyop. I think he lives in China. But he just spews so much disinformation that it's possible. I think it's conceivable that that's true. He's apparently been in some trouble from the government in China from time to time. But on the other hand, he says like a lot of crap that kind of, it as you mentioned before, like the psyops and things that these different countries do, or their governments and intelligence agencies do on social media, trying to divide Americans against each other. I think that's probably a bit of what's going on here.
Yeah, it's messed up to see.
In any case, he called himself an educator, but he's just spewing ahistorical, pseudoscientific nonsense to people, not just his students, but also millions of people around the world who listen to him.
And do you know, like, when did he kind of get popular? Was it because he made that prediction?
Yeah. That prediction, right, about Trump winning and then the Iran war. I guess he kind of blew up on YouTube after Trump attacked Iran again.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of podcasters have, amplified him. I think they were just doing that without really doing their due diligence. So I think that was a gaffe on their part. They weren't necessarily being malicious. I don't think that Crystal and Kyle were being malicious, but they did amplify him, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's, either you don't have the time, I think with some of the bigger shows, they just don't have the time or whatever. And
they get swept up in the sort of the hype.
Yeah. You're like, oh, he's legit. Everybody else says he's legit. It's fine,
That's also a lesson there about being careful. If somebody is saying something you agree with, you should be especially cautious, I think.
Right? Yeah. We're so quick to hear our echo chamber that we forget that we could sometimes use to hear another point of view, for sure.
Yep.
I'll tell you, all of us, I'll tell you who doesn't like hearing other people's point of view is Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
This is Pete Hegseth yesterday and then yesterday evening with President Trump. And the video quality on the second video isn't great, but I tried to zoom in to catch his facial expressions after Trump says what he says, because I thought it was pretty interesting here.
I give about a 3-minute statement on how we're doing in this, as I call it, military operation. People don't like me using the word war, but so I won't. But the Democrats go to war. How about a little statement? I think he's done a very good job. Do we agree he's done a good job, Mark White? Can we take some of your time?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. You're spot on. Never in history has a modern military. Iran had a modern military, a modern navy, a modern air force, modern air defenses, leadership, massive bunker. Never has a modern military been so rapidly and historically obliterated, defeated from day one with overwhelming firepower. The air
He looks so excited right now.
Campaign that we've conducted, that Israel's conducted alongside us, was one for the history books, truly. And it's because we have a president of the United States that when he sends his warfighters out to fight, he unties their hands to actually go out and close with and destroy the enemy as viciously as possible from moment one. And that's why we see ourselves as part of this negotiation as well. We negotiate with bombs.
We negotiate with bombs, Louise. Fucking America. That's right. Holy shit. Who says that at the Department of War?
Yeah.
There was that one time where John McCain sang the Bomb Bomb Iran song. Look, I'm no Iran apologist or anything. I'm just saying, like, have some restraint, dude. You have the power already. You're the shot caller, and what arguably is the strongest military in the entire world right now. You already got that. Does he just have a really small penis? Is that what's going on here?
And also, did you notice Trump said that some people don't like calling it a war, some people, or Democrats call it a war, but other people call it a military operation. That's basically just what Putin said when he is still doing his 3-day special military operation in Ukraine 4 years later.
Right.
And a lot of MAGA people were going, or politicians were going online and in the media saying that this is not a war. Right, because it's an air campaign, so therefore it's not a war. That's not how it works.
We just deployed the 101st, or was it the 82nd? One of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, 82nd. Yeah, that's an airborne unit. You don't deploy them last.
Mm-hmm.
They're first. Oh my god, dude! And it's funny. They're asking Caroline Leavitt earlier this morning when I was watching that. They're asking her questions like, so is this going to be wrapped up in a couple of weeks? Or do you not... We were in Afghanistan for over 20 years.
Yeah.
You think this is going to be done in 2 weeks? We're deploying the 82nd Airborne to the Middle East. This isn't going to be done in a couple of weeks. This shit's just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting started. And there's another interesting comment Trump makes here in just a moment.
You have a choice as we loiter over the top of Tehran, as the president talked about your future. The president has made it clear that you will not have a nuclear weapon. The War Department agrees. Our job is to ensure that. And so we're keeping our hand on that throttle. This is not a president who's interested in vague end states. He's been very clear with us about what we need to accomplish, creating the conditions for them never to have a nuclear capability, and that's exactly what we're doing in historic fashion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard.
Mr. President,
You know, the only two people that were quite disappointed, I don't want to say this, but I have to. I said, Pete and General Raisin Kane, I think this thing's going to be settled very soon. Here they go. Oh, that's too bad.
He's upset because the war's going to end. Oh, that's too bad. We don't get to kill more Iranians? Damn. And then Leva earlier this morning, she was talking about all the 7,000 pound bombs we dropped on them, or 5,000 pound. I don't remember. It was either 7 5,000 pound bombs or 5 7,000 pound bombs, whichever. I mean, what? These are like people's lives you're taking. And then they're like, oh, we attacked them. And, you know, we hit several of our targets. There was one fatality. I don't feel like you're giving us the truth there. They're like one fatal, 298 hurt. Like, no, I don't think that's how that shit went down. I think we're getting lied to, buddy. But what else is new with these media outlets, right? Because they just report on whatever the military and intelligence tells them. They don't actually go and do the fucking legwork and see all the dead bodies.
Mm-hmm. And also, did you know when the Tomahawk missile hit the girls' school?
Yeah, a fucking kid's school. Yeah.
Trump was trying to say that it was an Iranian missile. And
is that what he said in the beginning? I didn't even catch that.
Other countries were saying that, not other countries, other American officials were saying that maybe it was an Iranian Tomahawk, which there's no such thing. I don't think Iran has tomahawks.
No Iranian Tomahawk?
The strike, I think they're still investigating that, but apparently it might have been, the targeting information might have come from AI. So the thing about a Tomahawk, it's very accurate, like it hits within a few meters of the target. And so they knew that where it was going to hit, but maybe they didn't know what it was going to hit, or they got bad intelligence, or they just relied too much on AI.
So you're saying that there's a potential here that an AI battle system targeted this school and blew it up.
Yeah. Somebody had to sign off on the order to fire, but if it came from AI.
Did they?
Well, I would assume, but I don't know all the ins and outs of the U.S. kind of.
I would hope.
Yeah.
I would hope, but
I mean, even if they did sign off on it with a person, that's still pretty bad because they're still relying on the AI to give them the broad view, right? So I'm not saying AI shouldn't be used in war at all. I mean, obviously Ukraine is using it to great effect against Russia, but
right.
If you're going to hit facilities in a large country like Iran, you have to know exactly what you're hitting, as this incident showed.
Oh man, I tell you, these fucking people. I get it just weirds me out because you see them, they're safe, they're comfortable, they're in their multi-$1,000 suits and dresses, and they get the best of the best, and they're making these decisions that end people's lives that are like janitors at one of these missile defense places, and it's like, it's just so fucked, man. It's just
they're putting out Twitter or X posts with bomb strikes and then overplayed with rap music or something like that.
Yes, I've seen that.
treating it like Grand Theft Auto or some video game.
Right. And people are fucking dying, you know?
Yep.
All right. So after this, so Trump literally just said, "Oh, Pete Hegseth was bummed because they might have to negotiate and wrap up the war," even though a little bit ago we just heard the Iranian leader say, "Fuck you all, suck my dick. We're getting pretty close to a deal." So he tells Hegseth, "Hey, we might have to stop bombing them because we're getting pretty close to a deal." Hegseth's bummed about that. I don't think we're getting close to a deal.
That this also goes back to the point I made earlier about the eschatology. Different groups have got their own end times narratives, but so do the Iranians. The Ayatollah regime and its religious kind of beliefs are tied up with this thing called 12er Shi'ism. It's a version of Shia Islam. They believe that the 12th Imam is going to return.
Really?
And with Jesus as well, interestingly, like not as like the same role as he has in Christianity, but still, because in Islam, like Christ is recognized. But yeah, they also believe in that sort of stuff, and also like the U.S. Israel murdered their the Ayatollah. Now they've got a new Ayatollah, but the one that was killed, that's a pretty big deal. Like, so they don't think that the U.S. is even really capable of negotiating in good faith.
Well, and oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish.
Yeah, so they're just, the U.S. kind of shot itself in the foot. If Trump says that he's open to negotiations, well, that avenue was already cut off, because if you kill somebody's leader, you're just showing that you're just going to lie about everything.
Right.
So,
and we killed one of their general leaders just last time Trump was president, right? Didn't we kill him when he was in Iraq?
Yeah, wasn't it some the Revolutionary Guard commander?
Yeah, he was kind of some high up commander genius that was getting a lot of street cred with these guys. Potentially the next, leader, and we blew him up.
Yeah. Right.
And it's crazy to me, because I swear to God, I sat through meetings where we were told by these guys who are in military brass, you can't, kill a leader. Like, it doesn't work that way. You can't just take out a country's president. That's not how you fight a war. Yeah, crazy. I guess the rules just don't apply to these folks.
Yep.
Reminds me of the Epstein group.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Well, and I said, let's talk. We got a problem in the Middle East. We have a country known as Iran that for 47 years has been just a purveyor of terror, and they're very close to having a nuclear weapon. We can keep going and get that 50,000 up to 55 and 60 is no end. Or we can take a stop and make a little journey into the Middle East and eliminate a big problem. And Pete, I think you were the first one to speak up. And you said, let's do it, because you can't let them have a nuclear weapon. So we are now having really good discussions. They started.
You just dropped that whole fucking thing on Pete right there. He's like, yeah, we had these conversations and they were going good, but I think it was Pete that was like, no, we got to blow him up.
Yeah. Trump often throws his people under the bus, and they have to sort of play for the camera.
Oh, man, that's rough. That is rough. Department of War, Secretary of War, Peter Hegseth. What a guy, huh?
Yeah, and the funny thing is that Trump billed himself as the peace president.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's renamed the Department of Defense the Department of War. He's launched a war against Iran, which was an unnecessary war. He pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal, which was done under Obama, which actually provided America with a lot of intelligence on the ground about what Iran was doing.
Yeah.
And, and so whatever, there's some things maybe that are not good about that deal, but at least it provided America with, on the ground intelligence about the actual situation. Trump destroyed that, and he chose war. Yep. And so, yeah, ironic to say that.
And it's hard to, I mean, you picture we're sitting in a position where we have either the largest stockpile or the second largest stockpile of nuclear weapons, and we're telling this country who we're constantly arguing with, you can't have nukes. Meanwhile, North Korea sets them off once every couple of years underground or whatever. It just seems like this kind of ridiculous double standard. It always has been with Iran, where how are you going to tell a leader, look, every nation state that has a nuke doesn't get invaded. Yeah. That's just how it is. So how are you going to tell a guy he can't provide that to his people? And you also have the most of them.
Yeah.
India has them now too, right? And so does Pakistan now, right? And that they haven't blown up the world yet.
Yeah, and what Trump is also, don't forget that he's also in need of narcissistic supply. So
right.
He's actually got a mental disorder. So
he does.
That gets amplified through the government bureaucracy and internationally through U.S. policy. So Trump is very much about like feeling excited or titillated.
Sure, he's like a TV ratings guy. It's funny.
This is a thing that he's excited about because it's dramatic.
Right.
Gets attention on him. He can pretend that he's like in charge of things, even though he's spreading chaos. He doesn't know most of what's going on. His advisors are all pretty much incompetent. They don't want to tell him the truth in any case.
Well, that's the thing. Even if they weren't incompetent, they'd be afraid to tell him.
Yeah, exactly. The U.S. military is obviously the most proficient in the world. So the rot hasn't spread to that yet, but we are seeing some potential signs of that with the reports from a religious, the American Religious Freedom or Freedom from Religion Foundation or something. They receive reports about, violations against separation of church and state. So they've gotten a lot of reports from active military, complaining that officers in the Air Force have been proselytizing with a war and saying that this is good news because it's going to bring about the second coming. Now, I don't know if those officers were told by Hegseth to say that to their underlings, but I doubt it. I think it's more that they saw Hegseth as kind of permission to do that sort of thing more openly, because Hegseth has got his own Christian nationalist and weirdo beliefs as well. So they probably see him as like the green light to do that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, and he wasn't he like a contributor on Fox or something?
Yeah. That was his. That's what he was doing before he was appointed.
Do you know what he was doing before that?
Well, he was in the military. I think he reached the rank of captain, if I'm not mistaken. He never had any sort of policy experience. Unlike, do you remember, what was his name? Austin Lloyd? Always get him switched up. But that was the Secretary of Defense under Biden. Very, very experienced. He was a general. He had a lot of experience. He was super qualified for that position, and yet he was denigrated as being DEI. But now we've got this guy who's actually TEI, Trump-endorsed incompetence.
That's
DEI.
Did you just make that up?
No. That's from AmericanManifesto.news, whichever one.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, it's the new Department of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne Mullen.
Yeah,
this is a guy that tried to pick a fight on the Senate floor.
Now, let's talk about Mr. O'Brien himself, his behavior. As everybody knows, and it's here in the last time, him and I kind of had a back and forth. Appreciate your demeanor today. It's quite different. But after you left here, you got pretty excited about the keyboard. In fact, you tweeted at me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And let me read what the last one said. It said, greedy CEO who pretends like he's self-made. Sir, I wish you was in the truck with me when I was building my plumbing company. Myself and my wife was running the office because I sure remember working pretty hard and long hours. Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. Always has been, always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution every problem?
No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond? Mr.
Hold it. If
Hold
we
on.
can't, no,
This is
I have
what
the
he
mic.
said.
I'm sorry.
This is
Hold
what
it.
he said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a hearing. And God knows the American people have enough contempt for Congress. Let's not
I don't
make
like
it worse.
thugs and bullies.
You have,
And that's
you
what-
have
I don't
the
like
mic.
you because you
Hold
just
it.
described yourself.
Hold it. You have the mic.
Yeah.
You have time.
Literally. I don't know if you ever saw that video. But this is our new Department of Homeland Security.
Yep.
Also, I was piecing together, because, you know, I've been working on this Epstein thing for just in depth on it for a while. And I was going through some of my stuff I hadn't edited yet. And in there was the role of him the first time they tried to pass the Epstein document release. He's the one person that stood up and objected to it and caused it to not pass. And then the very next time they did it, he said the same thing again. And his argument the first time was, well, the Democrats didn't do anything for 4 years, so why should we? That was his argument to not pass the bill. And then I believe the technical argument on his second one was, are you kidding me?
They've told the American people that they're going to release the files and expose the elites. Pam Bondi has said that she has the files on her desk and they're ready to go public. Enough with the secrets. The American people deserve the truth.
Is there an objection?
I reserve the right to object.
The senator from Oklahoma.
Mr. President, this is nothing but political theater. It's so obvious that the Democrats are just using this for a political football. If they were really serious about it, what happened the last 4 years? Where were they? Silent? Doing nothing but covering up for an absent president? And now all of a sudden they want to talk about transparency? We haven't even figured out who ran the White House the last 4 years, and now all of a sudden they want to make something of this? Are you kidding me?
Then last week, I stood here and introduced a simple resolution calling on the Justice Department to release the Epstein files. The Republican senator blocked it. In the weeks since, even more damning information has come out, and now we know exactly why Trump is bending over backwards to keep these files hidden. We know that Epstein was at Trump's wedding. We know that Epstein once called Trump his closest friend for 10 years. I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be agreed to.
Is there objection?
Mr. President,
The senator from Oklahoma is recognized.
I reserve the right to object. As we hear my colleague from Arizona use, I say, very liberal truths to what he was saying by not giving all the facts, I'd also propose a question. Where was all this outrage over the last 4 years when Director Wray was over the FBI and Attorney General Garland was over the DOJ? He knows, I know, and all the Democrats know that if there was anything to do with President Trump, they would have happily released it. My Lord, you went after him for everything else you could possibly think of.
That's our new Department of Homeland Security, a guy that doesn't even want the Epstein files out.
Yeah. Department of Pedophile Defenders.
Man, it seems like it. That's what kind of seems like what the Department of Justice has become, or the FBI, whoever is complicit in this shit. You know, it's disgusting because whoever is complicit in it is going to get a pardon. That's definitely coming. So even if they face any consequences, they're not going to really face any consequences. They're just going to get a pardon. I think my buddy Flack says that at one point, Pam Bondi asked Trump for a pardon. Did you hear about this? She kind of said it to him in passing, like, you're going to give me a pardon, right? I think so, yeah. And Trump said, we'll see, or something to that effect. So, wild. Now, what do you think of more of the policy stuff? What do you think of, it looks like the Trump medical website is a big bust, at least from what I'm reading. What do you think of the SAVE Act? That's the one about voters having to have registration. What do you think about that one?
It's a fraud. It's actually the Save Republicans Act, because it's very, very, even the Heritage Foundation admitted that there's only like 100 cases, documented cases of undocumented people voting in American elections.
Right. So drop in the bucket.
It's really designed to disenfranchise millions of eligible voters by having much more restrictive requirements for ID. But it's to be a registered voter, you already need ID. But they're putting in all this bullshit about, like, if you're a woman and your last name is not the same as when you first registered, you have to go and change that, and passport and all this crap.
So if you just got married, they can make it a pain in the ass.
Yeah. It's designed to basically make it more difficult for women to vote and some other groups. But ironically, it also affects rural voters. So it might actually, even if it does pass, which I don't think it will, but even if it does, it might well be shooting themselves in the foot.
Well, how much of a problem? I mean, you said the Heritage Foundation found about 100 cases.
Yeah, it's very rare. It's very rare. It's nothing compared to how many people would be disenfranchised who are eligible. That would be much more, the problem.
Okay, so this was probably something they hyped up so that they could deliver on when they got into office.
Outrage baiting, so they can say that they're protecting election integrity, even though Trump is himself the one who tried to steal the 2020 election. They're always big hay about Democrats trying to steal elections, but in fact, it's them doing it.
Yeah. Look, anybody, you can go onto Netflix. They have a documentary about I think he was the governor of Nevada at the time, who Trump and mostly Giuliani was calling him, bugging him about changing the electoral votes. Because they had proof of voter fraud. And he kept saying to Giuliani, show me the proof and I'll do it. But I want to see the proof. And Giuliani kept saying, yeah, we'll get it to you. We'll get it to you. And finally he goes, look, he set up this meeting and Giuliani and Trump show up there and he goes, okay, where's the proof? And Giuliani says, oh, I forgot it. But you should still do this. And he was like, fuck you. Waste my time with this bullshit, just trying to play me or whatever. And so he didn't do it. But that's on Netflix. It's not like that's some made up political fervor. That was like them legitimately trying to get a guy to do something not based on fact, trying to get him to hang his political career out there because they said so.
Yeah. And there's many things like that. The bipartisan committee that was set up to investigate January 6th. The Republican witnesses, most of them said that Biden won fair and square. The Republican judges have also affirmed Biden won. Various other officials in MAGA have also affirmed that Biden was the duly elected president. So that was a fake, that was just basically a psyop, actually, now that we're thinking about psyops. That was just basically rage baiting to get people, angry and riled up and distracted and, against the phantom, problem. So American elections are actually the integrity is very high, because there's many checks and balances on that. They're usually well administered. Ironically, the biggest threat to election integrity is voter suppression, and that's mostly done by Republicans. When they find some reason to cast out like thousands of ballots, it's almost always in districts where you've got like a large black or other minority kind of contingent. So they tend to vote Democrat, but that's the reason that they're targeted.
Right.
If Reagan had done this, the Republicans would have impeached him.
His own party.
Yeah, I think so. Because there were certain limits you weren't supposed to go over, like certain red lines in politics, that it was understood by everybody, implicitly at least, that you're not supposed to just, just spread this level of disinformation just willy-nilly. And you can't just, there's just certain things that you can't say or do. And this was understood basically by everybody. Even though under Reagan, you had like a lot of policies which Trump is now accelerating. And I think the Heritage Foundation had quite a bit of influence over the Reagan administration. They got a lot of their proposed legislation pushed through under Reagan, but it wasn't anywhere to the extent of what we're seeing right now.
Right. Do you think that Trump has a way out of this without sending in ground troops?
No, I don't think his mentality allows for that.
Okay, so if he sends in ground troops, I know you're not like a war expert or anything, but what do you kind of foresee after that? And you don't need to prophesize the future like Dr. Jang, but what do you think might happen if we start sending troops in there?
They're going to get sniped by the drones, which are very difficult to intercept these days because they use fiber optics. I don't know if the Iranians have got much experience in AI drones. But, there are certain drone technologies which are very, very difficult to intercept. Drones are very cheap as well to make. And Iran, I assume they've got huge amounts of them, probably in anticipation of this invasion. I'm guessing that they've been somewhat prepared for this possibility for decades. Really, since the Iranian Revolution of 1979, they've probably... part of their doctrine has been, what are we going to do if America attacks us?
Sure. Yeah.
And obviously is the horizontal escalation with attacking, American targets in the region and also attacking American allies and their economic assets. But now you've got technology. You've also got, probably Iran will really take off the gloves in terms of targeting. I suspect that they'll hit more targets. They've already, I think didn't they scare away like 50,000 or so Americans from the region? Something like that. Certainly the diplomatic...
I know they definitely attacked American bases. It didn't...
They also hit the American embassy in Iraq, in Baghdad.
Oh, did they? Okay.
They released drone footage of a drone kind of loitering over the compound. And
wow.
Yeah. And so they're also going to hit more American consulates, things like that, economic assets. Probably there's going to be a spike. Oh, there already has been a spike in terrorism. Which is what happened.
Well, that's the thing. Do we send these troops in there? Yeah, and then it's Iraq number 2, where we've got guerrilla warfare and insurgency everywhere.
And the Iranians are experts at asymmetric warfare. Their whole doctrine is based around it. And so I think the leader who replaced I have to check this, but I think the leader who replaced the head of the Republican, I keep saying Republican Guard, I'm thinking of Iraq. It's the Revolutionary Guard. It's sort of like the elite of the Iranian military, and the Quds Force, which are kind of like the special operations people in Iran. They are really adept at information warfare, using proxies, attacking various types of targets, and creating terror and chaos. So that they're definitely going to do that more and more, and try to choke off the strait completely. And even if the war were to end tomorrow, there's no telling how long the economic chaos would still persist, because there's actually, people have studied this during the oil crisis of the 1970s. That took a long time to get past that. Even after the crisis was officially over, the oil prices remained pretty high, and I think the supply chains remained destabilized. So this could affect America for many months or even years, even if the outright hostilities end, very quickly.
Yeah, well, and oil is such a strange commodity. It's a commodity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, strange commodity, because they have so much of it. They control the drip of it to control the price of it, basically, right? I mean, because if they just opened all the floodgates, it would crash everything, because then oil would be 2 cents a gallon and everybody would be buying it. Would not be good. So yeah, that aspect of it is interesting, and maybe another reason why Iran or Russia is telling Iran, knock it off, like just call it a day, cut your losses, and don't build a nuke and do whatever, because a lot of their oil and business comes from, to and from Iran. So,
although Russia has somewhat benefited from the situation with higher oil prices, and sanctions have been lifted on Russia as well, I think. So I don't know why Trump keeps giving Putin like a little assist every so often when he doesn't have to.
Well, all he had to do was tell Zelensky that they would make guarantees, that we would make guarantees that if Russia opened fire on one of their units, we would back them up. Yeah. But Trump was just like, nope, we're not.
And
we're not doing
Ukraine
that.
is actually offering to help America, because they've got Ukraine's very expert in drone warfare and drone interception.
Right.
But Trump is like, no, we don't need any help from Zelensky. Meanwhile, he's still giving favors to Putin, who's actually arming Iran.
Wow.
This is kind of all over the place. It's like all these different ironies built into it. This is what you get.
Parts.
You've got this sort of authoritarian axis thing going on in the West and Israel, but we're seeing it more and more in Europe as well. And so it makes for strange bedfellows. But really, Trump, if you think about it, he's not really like a traditional American conservative politician. He's more like a cult leader. Somebody mentioned that this is not politics anymore. It's cultism and propaganda. So that's what we're dealing with. And in Israel, Bibi is kind of like a mini Trump. But
definitely.
I should also mention that Israel. So some of the narrative around Israel, it's very problematic, because I do think that Israel does have quite a bit of influence over Trump, but it doesn't control him. Some people assume that Israel controls the U.S. government. I think that's going too far, and it also is kind of there's an anti-Semitic aspect there, because it's basically implying that America wouldn't do bad things unless they were compelled to by an outside power.
Right.
So this is kind of like the old Jewish bankers or Jewish capital controls the whole world, which is something that the Nazis they believed it as well.
Yes.
And so it doesn't really, I don't think it's possible for.
And really it's like the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds.
Those sorts of people, right? But this is really a conspiracy theory that kind of gets in the way of realizing what are the structural aspects of American politics that have gotten us here. It's easy to point at an outside power and say that's the culprit, but in fact, America has got much more influence over Israel than the other way around. There've been many cases where Israel has wanted to do something like hit a target, and America blocked them from doing it. So that shows that in fact it's America that has ultimately the power in that relationship.
So in that case, then Iran is not really us doing Bibi's bidding. It's because Trump wants this.
He wants it, but I mean, in a way, it is doing Bibi's bidding, because Bibi did want America to join in.
Oh yeah.
So, but he's one of the voices pushing Trump in this direction, and the reason is partly because of Bibi's authoritarianism in Israel, which largely reflects kind of MAGA authoritarianism in America. So Trump sees Bibi as kind of like a brother or close kin in that war on democracy. But there, I think it's more to do with whoever has got Trump's ear, like who can influence Trump by saying things which are flattering to him, or which seem to him to align with his own interests.
Right. Trump, one thing about Donald Trump, he does, and I've said this at least to my wife a couple times, is that he does seem like he would be one of the easier leaders to influence, because he puts such a value on material things and image that you could totally get that guy to do what you want if he had enough money.
Yeah, and that's in fact what he's soliciting, is basically with all the crypto scams he does, and using the U.S. government as an office.
That's right. There's the Trump coin, right?
Yeah, the Trump coin and all this other stuff. Which
do you even know how that's doing? I haven't looked it up in forever.
I think it goes up and down, but
yeah.
But really, the point is that it's like a way for, he's inviting people to come and bribe him, right? If they invest in this venture or this scam, then they can have some influence over him. That's basically what he's advertising. And he uses the office of President of the United States to do that quite openly. He uses foreign policy as a tool as well for self-enrichment, or to project his own image, and extorting other countries, including allies, to do certain things that they wouldn't otherwise do. So, his whole thing is about projecting strength by bullying other people. But that's ultimately a very fragile basis for strength. It actually undermines America, because if you destroy an alliance, which America relies on the world for a lot of things, its security, its wealth, the whole trade system. If you start to just bully people, they're not going to take you seriously eventually, and they're going to go to somebody else like China.
And that's what's happening, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing it happen every day. Is we're seeing things like U.S. aid, what intelligence calls soft influence, getting defunded. A president that can just wage war without having to ask Congress, and attack boats in the open sea without having to consult Congress, and like all this other crazy shit, kidnap a president, kill a leader. They're just doing whatever the fuck they want. They're like the Romans when the Romans were running things,
And also, they kept saying that Biden and Kamala were wanting war, And, you know, I don't think any of this would have happened under Kamala if she had won.
Well, Kamala Harris, to give credit where it's due, she did say if Trump wins, we'll be at war with Iran.
Yeah.
And she did call that. Love her or hate her. Most people hate. She did at least get that part right.
Yeah, like, well, so did Jiang, and they called him a prophet, but she got it right. As well, and they denigrate her. Right. But anyway, yeah. So this whole thing is basically just it's a culmination of different things. So it's like authoritarianism, this democratic decline that we're facing. It's Trump's own narcissism and other psychological problems. And it's also a culture of disinformation and breakdown in trust of institutions.
Yeah.
And, not all the blame can be placed at Trump's feet or even just at the Republican.
Sure.
But, they are the ones who are accelerating this right now. And they really don't seem to have any shame in kind of pushing it as far as they can.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It seems like influence him so easy if you know what to tempt him with. It's unfortunate. Now, okay, let's say we go in on Iran. We have boots on the ground. I mean, are we going to end up in Iraq version 2?
Well, maybe. I don't know how kind of similar the two situations are, because Iran is a very large country compared to Iraq in terms of population, and it's got a different culture and self-identity, right?
Yeah.
And many of them, they do have a more kind of, in terms of the aspirations of the people, there's a larger alignment with liberal democracy or desire for it. But that doesn't mean that if America were to invade, that they would just, stand aside.
Right.
They do.
This is the Iraq-Iran war. Weren't they eventually sending Iran troops with knives because they ran out of bullets or something like that? When they were fighting Iran, like in the 70s, I think, or the 60s, I don't remember. But
after the revolution, when Saddam invaded Iran.
Yeah, and they were fighting without weapons. Like, it was crazy. They will not just lay down like Iraq did.
Right. Well, Iraq didn't really lay down either. There was a lot of insurgency and kind of
there was. I guess that's what I mean is, like, there was with Iraq, it was more they let us kind of stroll right in. We disbanded the army, the Iraqi army, and then there was this insurgency problem. With Iraq, it's like, I don't know that we'll disband their I don't know that their army will quit. They'll keep fighting, and so I don't know that we're prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a lot of killing.
Yeah, and I don't think most people in the U.S. military even want to be there.
No, fuck no. That's like getting sent to Iraq. Why would you want to go there? It's not like they love white people. I promise. That's not a thing in Iran. There's some great history in Iran. It's like Persia, right? It's like old Middle East, like old Persian Empire stuff. But I've never had a friend be like, dude, we're going to Iran this summer. It's gonna be great. It's like never come up in a conversation. Man. Okay. Now, what about Israel using phosphorus on Lebanese fields? Why would you use phosphorus? Is it just to kill all their crops?
I guess so. I thought phosphorus was only meant to be used as like a illumination thing.
Yeah.
Against people or living things. That's illegal,
Right.
isn't it?
That's why it comes up. It came up in my news feed because it's against, again, back to the Geneva Convention, back to rules of war. It's against one of those rules of war. Same in other rules, you're not supposed to have munitions that come down and split up into smaller munitions and hit the ground, which we've seen. Iran has had some success with those over Tel Aviv. I think that shocked a lot of people. They weren't ready for Iran to have technology like that.
Yeah, Iran is some of the missiles are going through to Tel Aviv, and also of the drone aspect again. The drones are very cheap, and so you can do a lot of damage with a few drones, even if most of them are shot down. But the ways of shooting them down are often much more expensive than the drones themselves. So there's like a cost asymmetry here. And America is reportedly blowing through a lot of its munitions. And there are concerns that it might not be able to defend Taiwan sufficiently in the event that China made a move on Taiwan.
I have heard stories about that. Read a couple of stories. Actually, I read one. It was before Iran started. It was when we were basically supplying Ukraine. And there was an admiral in the Navy that was concerned back then that we were going through ammunition too quickly because we're sending it all to Ukraine. And I guess the thought process was, well, we're killing Russians, plus they're having to come up with us all this ammunition to fight Ukraine. So they kind of, I don't know, they made it work. They made the numbers work. So, you know, because the Pentagon's like corporate America now. It's so crazy hearing Caroline Leavitt say, like, we're right on target with our estimated blueprint and project. We've, come up with an end date. It's like, holy shit, this is fucking war. And you're talking about it like it's a Microsoft Office project.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the same sort of mentality that Robert McNamara, sorry, I can't say his name right now.
McNamara. Yeah.
Brought to the Vietnam War. He just sort of saw everything in terms of numbers and ratios and kind of computerizing everything. Right. And if you could kill this many enemy versus your attrition, then in so many months or years you would take over the whole country. Right. That didn't pan out because the NVA and the VC, they just had to kill a certain number of American troops over time, and that would sour the American public support for the war. Right? It didn't matter how many enemy America killed. That's not what the enemy was really concerned with either. It was more, if we can just kill this many American soldiers, then that would have a huge psychological effect on the American electorate. And so I think the Iranians would go for that strategy as well.
Oh, I think so too, which is not, if you have heard any of the horror stories from soldiers that served in Vietnam, that's not a good thing when they're trying to, that's not good. What do you make of this? All right. So when that general, because, you do ufology is corrupt.com. You're really good at interpreting bullshit from, real crazy scientific stuff. What do you think of the General McCasland disappearance? And then apparently there's been a couple other scientists since him that have gone disappearing.
I did hear about that. No, I haven't really looked into that.
No? Okay. Yeah. Very weird. I covered it a little bit, but yeah, he goes missing. The officers that gave the press briefing, they didn't really give any insight into what they thought might have happened, other than the reason I didn't initially cover it is because they gave a silver alert, which usually that happens when, it's like an older person, they're lost or something like that. It's a silver alert. So I was like, oh, it's probably health related, something like that. I'm not, I didn't even cover it. But then like a couple weeks later or a week later, and the sheriff gives this press conference and he's like, no, we did that because of his age and it gets more attention that way. they were like, honestly, even if he did have Alzheimer's or whatever, like he would still probably be brighter than anybody in the room right here. Like, he's a genius or whatever. The only thing, his phone and wearable watch that he always takes with him, because he's a big hiker, doesn't take with him. But he takes his wallet and gun. And his wife says, well, he only uses his gun when we go camping on rare occasions or for protection. Crazy. And he's just gone. He's like, they've had search teams looking at this way. It's like when one of those teenage girls goes missing, like they're poof, just gone. And like, same with him. He's just gone.
Maybe he fell into a crevice or something.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, right? Like, usually there's some kind of weird but normal explanation. But then somebody that worked with him during when he was part of some of these programs, right? Patterson Air Force Base, his partner, I think, or his assistant, they went missing several months ago as well. Some weird shit, man. And then I guess another scientist just got shot in the head or something, and they're calling it a suicide, but they're not too sure.
I would have to look at all those cases.
Yeah, I'll send you some stuff when we get done, but it's pretty interesting. Like, yeah, it's just because maybe there's nothing out of the ordinary. Maybe like it happening to them is just a big deal because they are who they are. Like, maybe it's not anything crazy at all, but the fact that there's like a group of them, together in time, like is very weird. And they all have to do with the same thing. And everybody's been talking about disclosure in UFOs since 2017, 10 years now. They're given that 2027, man. It's going 2027. But then Louise said it might be 2036. So, if 2027 doesn't come through, he's got a backup plan.
It's kind of like Iranian nukes. It's just around the corner.
Right. They're going to have access any day now, folks. Any day. In fact, they've got little kids in school building nukes right now in Iran. That's why we had to blow up that school.
Oh, well, yeah. That makes sense.
We're just so, like, being separated from Europe by a couple of oceans has really affected the way we view war. We don't have to deal with rockets shooting over our cities. Like, that's just not a thing here. And hey, thank God for it. But it's definitely a thing over there. And when you start a war with a country like Iran, man, they're launching rockets at everyone, including their, quote unquote allies. So, oy, oy, oy. Now you did the thing on Jang, Professor Jang, and then you also had another piece about the free energy stuff and the free energy narrative with UFOs, where it seemed like it's the same kind of thing with the free energy tie-in as you see with all UFO, where it's like circular reporting. It's there's no real factual base evidence. There's just like, this guy said that guy said this guy in a report that guy made. It's like, oh, okay, well then no, that's the same person. And it's it's like, oh, let me guess, Eric Davis is involved with this somehow. Shocker. Something legitimate Eric Davis has ties to? No way. You don't say. Yeah, everything. You can tell I'm not a huge Eric Davis fan. I don't hate the guy. I don't wish him ill, but I really do feel like he is providing false hope, is what I feel like Eric Davis is doing.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't speak about this. Like when he looks at a member of Congress and he tells him there are 4 species of aliens.
Yeah. That's insane.
What is that about? How can you call yourself a scientist and look someone in the face and be like, there's insectoids, there's grays, there's fucking reptilians. Reptilians are real? Dude, in the 1990s, reptilians weren't aliens. They were like critters from the caves down below us or something that could shapeshift. Now all of a sudden they're aliens?
Well, actually, there was a movie series called V.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. But, the reptilians weren't such they weren't so much in the public imagination in the 90s in terms of alien, as being aliens, I guess, as the Greys were,
right.
Which had kind of taken over as the default aliens in the public mind. But yeah, now you've got like a menagerie of aliens, which are all kind of jostling or jockeying for, supremacy in this kind of weird space opera universe.
Yeah.
And the
same with the
tall whites or the Nordics are making a comeback as well. They were the OG aliens in a way, because back in the contact years, the Nordics were like the contactees like George Adamski and others. Okay. They were saying that the aliens were like basically humans, but from outer space, and they had a more advanced civilization with better governance and better technology, and they could live in harmony with the environment as well. But yeah, the aliens back then were basically humans from basically angels, really, if you think about it, just like with technology. So I think it was a religious narrative. Well, it really was with the contactees, because they had a lot of kind of new age and theosophical inclinations as well, and that was reflected in their stories. But you're also seeing right now really a push for like the kind of psychic and ESP and consciousness narrative.
Oh yeah,
that's making a big, a lot of headway as well.
Absolutely, buddy. That's all. I mean, the Psy games. I don't know who that girl is that puts a blindfold over her face and then like tells them what color the sheet they're holding up is. But it just seems like so tchotchke to me. Like it just seems like so parlor trick. If you can really do that kind of shit, why are you guessing the color of napkins on a stage for money?
Mm-hmm.
Seems like there could be some much more important shit you could be doing right now.
Yeah, like providing better targeting data so that they don't bomb girls' schools.
Thank you. Exactly. If we'd have had them working the fucking targeting data, no accidents ever. They're psionic. So even if it was going to the wrong place, they could make the missile change direction if it had to at the last second.
Yeah.
They got that kind of control. It's documented. Very well documented.
And by the way, you mentioned psionics. I found another reference to psionics in 1970s Doctor Who, Terror of the Zygons. This is like a 4-part series in 1970 something, 75, I think. Okay. So that was about like aliens coming here to take over the world, and they actually controlled the Loch Ness monster. It was actually a robot. Pretty cool.
No shit.
They mentioned psionics there, so that's just like another little, another mention in the culture. Yeah. Psionics actually has been mentioned since like the 1950s or 60s in various kind of new age hippie groups, and many mentions in like role-playing games and science fiction.
Yes, and now it's damn near mainstream. I mean, this Spielberg movie that's coming out looks like it's incorporating it big time.
Irresponsibly so. A contact of mine, not a contactee, a contact, mentioned that the Spielberg, the trailer, it had like one of the characters, her eyes were changing color as she was being possessed. That's actually quite irresponsible of Spielberg to go in so heavily for that kind of paranormal possession type of motif, because a lot of Americans already are primed with Christian fundamentalism to view things in terms of ghosts and spirits and demons, and it doesn't really help things to also portray the aliens as possessing people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of which, you might, because I know you're a great researcher, but I kind of did a deep dive trying to figure out where the rumor of the Collins elite in the Pentagon were saying these things were demons, right?
Yeah.
All of that comes from Lou Elizondo. He's the only source for that.
Yeah.
I just thought it was weird. Nobody ever called that out, because I was looking at. I was like, he can't just be the only guy that.
And what about
said,
Vallée?
yep.
Jacques Vallée.
Has Vallée mentioned?
He has, but I think maybe he's just repeating what Elizondo is saying.
It could be. I'll look into it. But yeah, pretty much like Elizondo is the only one that said it, and then it was just like everybody parroting that, because it was so shocking to hear. Like, it
does. Well, I don't know if it's shocking, because there's a believability to it, because there is actually a lot of Christian evangelical belief in I think especially the Air Force. But yeah, I could imagine that there's like certain officers or officials in the Pentagon who have got a reluctance to look into UFOs, because they there's quite a few Christian fundamentalists who believe that UFOs are demonic, satanic. And so, yeah, I mean, I could believe that there is such a, I don't know if they form into a group necessarily. I don't know if they kind of coalesce that way, but it's plausible, but I just don't think that there's enough evidence for it in the way that Elizondo describes it.
There's this guy in the 90s, Roger Moreau, I think it was, and he had a similar take where basically these spirits are going to come, they're going to tell us they're alien, they're like extraterrestrial, so like we'll trust them, but really they're just a demonic force. But he was out there saying that in like the early 90s or something.
And wasn't Bill Cooper, he said something similar, but with the government being the culprit and the UFO wave that's going to come. Yeah, and it's interesting the revenants that people have for Bill Cooper. Not that I think he's a terrible person or anything, but I mean, he did kill an officer. Yeah. In a shootout, and he embraced some pretty ideologically fringe stuff there towards the end. So yeah, I always thought that was kind of interesting, the revenants he gets. Yeah. I was going to mention as well, just briefly, no, sorry. No, it was nothing. You're good? Yep. You're all right. We'll just cut that part out. It happens to be all the time. I'll have like this really good point, and I'll be like, and I just forgot what I was going to say. The aliens were trying to possess me just then, but they couldn't. Exactly, dude. They're trying to fuck with you on the stream. Exactly. That's what they do. Oh, man. Has your mind changed on Elon Musk? You still love Elon Musk? Yeah, sure. I love him. No, I think he's actually, if anything, has gotten worse. Some people Vlad Vexler and others were actually predicting that he would get worse, not better, because other people were saying that he would become a Democrat after his break with Trump. But in fact, what's happening is that Musk now sees Trump as too liberal and too much of this, part of the establishment. What? So this is actually kind of pushing him even more to the extreme. Oh, Lord. How much more extreme are we talking? Like Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk's wife had him killed type extreme? Yeah. And also kind of just really, really going all in on the sort of the great replacement theory stuff, the transhuman replacement stuff. I mean, he supports transhumanism as a replacement for humanity. Right. He sees, as I mentioned before, there's an eschatology to his belief, as Jim Stewartson has looked at, that he sees things in terms of technology being better than biology. So he thinks that humans are obsolete and that we should be basically uplifted by the super intelligence. But he sees only some groups of people as being worthy of that uplifting. You know, the people who get doged or US aid is cut off from them, he sees them as expendable. And, you know, this is really not surprising because it's an echo and a magnification of his upbringing in apartheid South Africa.
No, I'm sorry. Who is this?
Musk.
Oh, Musk. Okay. You're still,
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about somebody he had worked with. Okay. So, yeah, that's right. He was raised there, and like, wasn't his dad kind of a rich guy, pilot, kind of maverick guy?
Yeah, he was, kind of that sort of person, and also quite abusive. This is also very important to note that Musk is actually traumatized by abuse, and he's basically taking it out on humanity.
Damn.
So he can barely bring himself to talk about his father when he's interviewed about him.
Right.
And yeah, so there's an aspect of trauma there. There's an aspect of sociopathy, and it's arguably Musk actually wants to escape this reality. That's why he goes in so heavily with the transhumanism and the digital superintelligence, because he wants to escape this realm.
And Mars.
Yeah, and be the king of Mars or the warlord, whatever.
Yes. Yes.
So these
Well,
kind of
I thought that was really cool how you put that together from that book, that the guy that was running Mars was also named Elon.
Did I? What did I say?
There was some that Elon Musk wanted to be like the...
Oh yeah, the Axis Mundi.
Axis Mundi, that's what it was. Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
so
that
it's
was
like
great.
it's a shamanic thing going on here, because the Axis Mundi, the shaman or the shaman is many cultures around the world is like the link between earth and heaven.
Right.
You know, linking the material realm to the celestial or spiritual realm. And if you think about that in terms of technology, Trump, I keep saying Trump, so it's Musk, would kind of fit that bill because he sees technology as transcendental, that it can improve humans or, you know, get them past certain inherent limitations. But again, he just sees some groups of people as worthy of that project. Other ones are
not us.
Expendable. Right. Well,
not us slowly peons.
Well, it's also a racial thing.
Really? See, I think it's so crazy that these rich people still care about race. I would figure they would know it. The only thing that matters is how much money you have.
Yeah, well, many of them don't personally have racist beliefs, but they use racism as a way to kind of divide people, distract people, right, from the systemic
That makes
issues.
sense. Yeah.
And other ones do genuinely believe. I think Musk does genuinely think that white people are superior. As so does Peter Thiel, who also has got some kind of Nazi and South African apartheid links.
Right. Yeah, that's South Africa's a very interesting history.
Yeah.
When it comes to race relations.
Yeah. And Trump, you know, you probably know, he invited the white South African so-called victims of white genocide in South Africa to come and live in America. Although many, reportedly thousands of them are heading back because they think that now conditions in America are not good. So kind of ironic, but
really, they'd rather live in a country where they could get murdered for being white than America.
Yeah.
Damn.
So there's meant to be, according to many of them,
America, that's not good.
Right. They came here to escape supposed persecution or even genocide, but many of them are heading back to South Africa. But again, the Trump administration showing its kind of white supremacist underpinnings by, you know, they're saying they're even offering these South African refugees, so-called refugees, social benefits, other forms of assistance, which they're not extending to Americans.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's so, but then they, they're all over these folks in Minneapolis. I don't know if it's fraud, then good, get it cleaned up, whatever. But the fact that it's become this huge story, and it's causing so much, getting so much attention and wasting so much energy on nonsense. I mean,
and it also shows the social media to policy pipeline has really shortened.
No shit.
I think like 72 hours after that so-called journalist, loitering around the Somali daycare, then you got like an announcement from the White House that they're going to go after these daycares, and they directed ICE there.
Yes.
So,
I mean, I've sat in spaces where current active representatives have jumped in and, chatted with the group and stuff. That's a policymaker jumping into an X space. I mean, so yes, there are definitely pluses of using your X account in a wise way, but like most things in this country, a bulk of people use it in a shitty way. So don't spend too much time on it. Yeah, it's crazy. I didn't use X at all until just like less than a year ago. I didn't even touch it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a swamp.
It really is, but it's nice being able to meet people, and like I said before, like we were able to meet through that and speak through that. So there's some good that comes out of it. But yeah, just stay out of the comments and all that kind of crazy noise, because you're just going to get upset over stuff that doesn't matter. That's how it's designed, right? Is to engage people through argument. If you're reading it, they don't care if you're reading it pissed off. All they care about is that you're on that page. So things to be aware. Who is it? I can't remember if it was Kurt Metzger or maybe it was Eric Hecker. I don't remember, but they came out and they said, fuck with your algorithm. Or no, it was Bill Maher. He said, fuck with your algorithm. Like, if you're on there and there's like rainbow kitties and that's something you would never search, just like do a deep dive on rainbow kitties and like, all this, click on all the random shit you would never click on. And then they're not going to be able to put you in any kind of a category. But data. And it's crazy that I was for going back to the SAVE Act was that I'm in Oregon. We've always done mail-in ballots. Never had a problem with it before. Why is it an issue all of a sudden? It's like, oh, that's the most corrupt. And I'm like, that's the only way I've voted since I've been a voting American is through the mail.
Yeah. Well, it's corrupt because Trump says it's corrupt. And since the dear leader would never lie, therefore it has to be true what he says.
Looking, I know because you're such a big fan of Trump, I wonder if you have thought about what you're going to do, who you're going to vote for when Trump's done. Are there any potential candidates out there you're interested in?
Well, no, I haven't really been keeping track of that. But the thing is, there's corporate Democrats and there's more kind of progressive grassroots Democrats. And the GOP is just a swamp. So, JD Vance obviously is a piece of absolute shit. And he's actually a Peter Thiel protege.
Is he?
Destruction of democracy. Yep.
Why would you want that?
Well, exactly. Well, it's because of grievance politics and rage bait. That's what the GOP offers, is getting people angry about a certain issue. Could be abortion. It could be like a woke.
Wedge issue is what we called them back in the day, right? A wedge issue?
Yeah, wedge issue, right.
Yeah.
And single voting block issue type thing, where you can garner a big voting base. Even when you're voting against your own interests, you've got this sort of cultural hang up, which can be exploited by people who want to keep fleecing you and keep you distracted, right? So they did this with abortion. This is like one of I think the Heritage Foundation and other groups, they did this kind of back in the 70s. They found these wedge issues that they could hook onto and use and exploit. And that was backed up by the corporations and far-right religious groups, because they kind of joined forces together because they realized they could garner this huge voting block by targeting certain issues like that.
Right. And once you know you can do it, then you just figure out a way to measure it and perfect it.
And now the right-wing ecosystem is much more sophisticated, and it incorporates social media. And I mentioned the social media to policy pipeline has happened in Minneapolis, right? Very rapid turnover. And basically the Democrats have not caught up with that. Really, they're just kind of filing a noise complaint as the Republicans.
That's, that's why it's hard to root for either side, because it's like, they say as you get in America, if you're, born here, live here your whole life, they say kind of the natural trajectory is you get more conservative as you get older, right? And like, I guess I kind of feel that way because, I'm getting to that age where it's like, you damn kids and your stupid rock and roll, get off my lawn. Like I'm getting there slowly but surely. I'm making my progress to that point. And the older I get, it's not the more conservative I get, the more just disenchanted with it all I become. Like it all just seems like theater and nonsense and noise, where it's like, all that matters is who has the money and who has the power. The rest of it is just a show.
Yeah, there's a great deal of truth in that, but there's also a danger in just being politically disenfranchising yourself, or becoming depoliticized, I should say. That's a better term. Is that fascism actually thrives on depoliticization because you're basically handing over the political arena to people who are very eager to grab it for themselves.
Right. But isn't that what we're doing now?
Yeah, but people do it to themselves. They sort of tap out of politics because it's too much.
Right.
That's by design. That's what they want you to do, is to tap out.
Yeah.
Because you're exhausted and disoriented, and so you just say, oh, screw it. I'm just going to not care about politics. I'm just going to focus on my own private life. But then what you're doing is actually handing over the political space to people who want to destroy democracy and the Constitution. So even though it's uncomfortable to be political, I think that we all have a responsibility to keep being political.
Yeah, that's kind of what I say to my wife, because my wife is to the point where she's like, I'm not even fucking voting anymore because she's so pissed about everything. And she's like, I can't believe you still do. And it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm a sucker, but I just feel like you still have to vote. You still have to put in your they're taking all my tax money. I might as well say something.
Once you vote, you have to apply a lot of pressure to the politicians you vote for to actually push through with their promises. Because voting is one thing, but then if you just sort of forget about it after you vote, you say, oh, that's my contribution, I'm done here.
Guilty of that. Yep.
Yeah. If you don't follow through, then there's not going to be any follow through at the political level.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. Great point. And I will really take that to heart, because that's something I've been thinking about. I'm kind of looking for a new career. And as I've been searching, that's been one of my thoughts is, I want it to be something I'm passionate about, something I care about, not just something where I can, make a good living at it. And so, yeah, that really speaks to me right now for sure. What else, buddy? What else? What's been bugging you lately? Anything you want to make sure we cover?
We can maybe go through a few of those. Professor Jang
Absolutely. 1 second. Let me jump back.
Quickly.
Let me jump back here. Get this nut off the screen. Look how crazy that fucking guy is. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Do you remember when he first became Secretary of War and he had that meeting with all those high up generals?
Yeah,
and he was like telling them they can't be fat anymore.
Yeah. Unlike the commander-in-chief.
What a fucking morale killer. I'm telling you right now, if you had to if you were working duty in South Korea and they were like, the new Department of War, he's calling in all the generals right now. And you're like, are you fucking, you're in the middle of defending a country and you get to go to Washington to listen to this 30-something-year-old lecture you on how to be a tough military guy.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. The gall on that guy. Okay, so you're Professor Jing, and I love that you titled it "And His Bullshit." So it sounds like you were, when I read it, it sounded like you were kind of into what he was saying at first, but then as you got to know more about him,
a couple of videos that kind of made sense what he was saying. Although I spotted a few things here and there which were not accurate, but anyway, but it was more like when, well, so I mentioned one there. He mentioned that in America doesn't make anything anymore, even though it does.
Right.
So that America wouldn't be able to fight a war against China because we don't make anything. But it's not like China makes our weapons. All the advanced weapon systems that the U.S. uses, it's made in the U.S. So that's completely wrong. Just stuff like that. But it was more when other people kind of went into deep dives and started pulling out kind of his false historical narratives, and the way that he uses game theory as well is problematic. So game theory is a branch of mathematics that deals with strategy and something called the prisoner's dilemma. So it's like if like on those police shows where they interrogate the suspects, like after a bank robbery or whatever, they've got them in separate cells. And so the cops are trying to get them both to confess and rat the other one out. But if they both keep their mouths shut, then they can get off. Maybe they don't get charged. If you rat out on the other guy and he doesn't rat out on you, then you get off, but he doesn't. So it's that sort of thing. And there could be an iterated dilemma as well, where you play this game over and over and you can adjust your behavior depending on what the other person does. So that idea is applied in statecraft and international relations and economics and war. But the way that he applies it is basically fraudulent. He just makes a bunch of assumptions and then he uses it to basically just arrive at whatever conclusion he wants, even when it's completely ridiculous, like that there was no Punic War. So he tries to say that Roman generals at the time would not have conducted this operation because of whatever reasons he brings up, supposedly based on game theory. But we know that the Punic Wars happened because there's a lot of primary source evidence for it and archaeological
artifacts, and
so that's the fact that it happened. And so we have to adjust our explanations based on the fact that there was this war.
Yes.
And that Carthage existed and that it was laid siege, etc. So he's basically just doing it the other way around. He wants to get at a conclusion which is like heterodox, goes against the mainstream explanation.
Right.
And then he uses game theory, supposedly, and then he arrives at his fraudulent conclusion. So he's not just misrepresenting game theory, he's also basically going to Pizzagate conspiracism. He's pulling out like things from Christianity and distorting them. He is denying human evolution as well, and also denying the Holocaust. He's also pushing a lot of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. He's really big on the idea that a handful of secret societies run the world. Obviously, we know that there are secret societies and that there are, rich people.
That's what's crazy, right? Is like as we find out more, we start to hear some of this stuff.
But it's not to the extent or the way that he describes it.
Right.
He's basically just, describing kind of Bill Cooper or Alex Jones, types of narratives.
Right. Just keep throwing it at the wall. Something will stick. And that's
But
interesting. And he's a professor, right?
Well, he's a teacher at a school, I think, in China.
Okay.
But he doesn't. His degree is from Harvard in what is it? Language. I think it's in language or English.
Okay.
He's not a historian. He's not a professional historian. He's not a professional archaeologist. He's not a game theorist. He's not a military expert. He's not a science expert.
And game theory is very advanced from what I understand, right? Like it's you gotta have a pretty high IQ to have a good understanding of game theory.
Get pretty dicey, yeah. There's many ways you can cut up the prisoner's dilemma and add whatever assumptions and so on. And very elaborate mathematical models have been derived from that to try to predict what the likely next move is in whatever scenario. But he doesn't really do that. He just basically uses game theory as a crutch or as a label or cover.
Or he's having AI do it.
Yeah. Well, speaking about AI, he does actually use a lot of Chat GPT screenshots in his lecture slides.
Oh, wow. Really? That seems to be going around a lot.
Oh yeah. That's a toxic tendency right now. Oh, and I mentioned the I am activity offshoots of there was a cult leader called Elizabeth Prophet. And she ran this cult. And she had this sort of chant. She would say, I am whatever, whatever, or I will. and then Mike Flynn basically just copied that.
Wow. Yeah, Mike Flynn trips me out because he was all about the Q stuff, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, he'd do pictures with the Q sign, and he didn't even get Trump holding up the Q one time or a couple times. Like, he was on that Q train. And then...
So was Kash Patel.
Was he really?
Yeah. He was one of the people, QAnon adjacent people, saying that the FBI should be dismantled.
And now he runs it.
Yep. Which is pretty typical of Trump.
What is with Trump doing that?
Appoints people who want to destroy the very agencies or departments that they run. But that actually exceeds Trump. There was an element of that really across many Republican administrations.
Right.
Past few decades where they want to destroy or at least limit certain departments or agencies and cut down costs. So that's how they bill it, is sort of fiscal responsibility is the battle cry. But it usually just means we don't want to fund these people, which means black people, women, minorities. But suddenly when there's a war, they got all the money in the world for that venture. When it's for education or for women's health or whatever, then suddenly there's no money left.
It's like Tupac said, man. You a Tupac fan?
Yeah.
Tupac said they got money for wars, but can't feed the poor.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how that works. Somebody was telling me the other day that I can't remember if it was Elon Musk or who's the Amazon guy?
Yeah, Bezos, Jeff Bezos.
Bezos, yeah. That they could give $1 million to like every American and still be rich or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, that's true. But then your money would be worth a lot less. Like if every American had $1 million, all of a sudden every American would have $1 million, and your $1 million wouldn't seem so high.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got $1 million now.
I think the better thing is just to fix the policies and have the society be much fairer. I'm not saying that everybody should be equal in wealth. That's you can go too far in that extreme as well. But what we have right now is a type of capitalism that's arguably not even capitalism anymore. It's a type of kind of neo-feudalism where just a few people have most of the wealth.
Yes.
They can buy the government, and the life support systems of the majority of people are being destroyed.
Now, do you think
there's no level playing field? There's no fairness.
Do you think that capitalism is destined for that? Like, no matter what,
like what it is now?
Yeah.
I don't.
No?
No, it was a very deliberate strategy to dismantle the New Deal. So the New Deal was actually the golden age of capitalism, even though there was many inequalities, especially racial inequalities. Like black people largely were excluded from many of the benefits, but it showed what was possible. And it did build solidarity in the labor movement between black people and white people. It showed what you can do with government policy directed at education and infrastructure and alleviating poverty and many other things like that. So it's definitely, you can have capitalism and all the innovation that goes with it and still not have what we have now. Now, that was dismantled very deliberately by corporate think tanks like Heritage and various right-wing religious groups, as I mentioned before, using wedge issues to, use that to take down certain policies that they didn't like. And so over time, you got the erosion of the New Deal, ended kind of around 1979, I guess. And then you had Reaganism and Thatcherism. And now we have Trumpism, right? Which bills itself as populism, but it's really just corporate welfare, actually, and no welfare for anyone else. But I don't think that is inevitable, because in other countries like the Scandinavian countries, they've got very strong safety nets and government intervention and very high levels of innovation as well, and more equal distribution of wealth. Although again, it's not really socialism. It's a more constrained and fair version of capitalism.
Right.
People in America forget that there was this New Deal, that capitalism looked very different back then. So a lot of people are now saying that we need socialism, but I don't think that's the right way to do it, because socialism's got its own problems, and I don't think we need it. I think we need to rejuvenate capitalism, but make it fair so everybody's can compete fairly, have a strong safety net so people can be helped when they need it, have like strong, universal health care, etc. Allow people to flourish.
Yeah. I always thought with capitalism and this democracy that we're very close, but not quite, there to being the perfect government. And sometimes I think, like, if somehow we could get the money out of DC and so if you go to DC, you're going to make a good salary, but you're also not accepting campaign donations, and you're given a budget for how many TV ads you're going to spend on and where you're going to spend it and stuff like that. And then your job is to get paid well to take care of the people that live in your districts and counties and states, whatever. But those politicians get in those positions, and after 3 months in DC, they're enchanted by the tens of thousands of dollars that constantly comes rolling in, and all they have to do is say yes or no here or there on something they don't really care about anyway.
Yeah. And so that's one of the problems, is campaign contributions coming from corporations mostly, but also other groups. I think there should be publicly funded elections, right, with a set budget. And and really the political parties should be competing with each other about how best to genuinely serve the American people.
Right.
Not compete with each other to get more, campaign money from Elon Musk or whatever. Give more good.
And that's, and that another part of that too is that there's a history of these guys slinging mud at each other in the back rooms, so that's become politics, smile in your face, stab in your back, and that makes you a good politician, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always thought, get the money out and then we have a chance. But then the, other side of me goes, well, that's just never going to happen. There's just no, would you give up millions of dollars? No. I mean, there's just no way that that's going to happen. So, I kind of feel like we're stuck here in this dilemma where, it seems, at least for the last 20, 30 years, that things in DC are very unstable, and that's not great for the leadership of your country to be unstable, and also be starting wars with people. It's crazy.
Rome is burning, that's for sure.
Man, and that was the thing with Rome, right? They burned it from the inside out. You know, and
that's the other thing. That you mentioned one of the clips with Jiang. I forgot to mention. He talks about the Roman Empire and the causes of its decline. He brings up the hypothesis that it was because of women not giving birth often enough. That's actually not even in the top 10 culprits for the collapse of the Roman Empire.
Yes, he said we know that Roman women or whatever weren't giving birth to children towards the end of Rome or something like that.
That is a trope that's often used in white supremacist circles nowadays, and in the sort of dude bro podcaster space.
Right.
They pretend that they know all about the Roman Empire, and they don't know anything about it's the causes of its collapse or anything really. They just kind of put out these tropes. Young men especially are prone to believing them because it's built to them as like, well, your republic or your country's under threat, so we have to learn from the Romans. But then they just ignore actually what the lessons were. Right.
That's the thing. They were a very powerful, well-organized, well-oiled machine, but they rotted from the inside out. We need to be careful we don't do the same. Which is another reason I'm so glad you come on these, because I know you're definitely more plugged into the actual political and legal ramifications than I am as far as what's going on. And I know I've been covering Epstein a lot. What is your take so far on all the Epstein craziness?
Well, it's really disgusting, as you mentioned, that other countries are actually doing something about the Epstein revelations, and the US is stuck with morons like Bondi saying, well, the Dow Jones is at 50,000 and we're not going to release any more files. The witnesses are just a distraction or a theater, all that stuff, right? So it's like completely spitting in the face of the victims. The victims are actually the only people I care about here.
Yeah.
All the politicians, all the academics, all the business people who were close to Epstein, I'm just for releasing all the information at once with no redactions, regardless of who it affects in terms of political parties, etc. As long as, obviously if there's convictions, it should be based on evidence. I'm not saying that everybody close to Epstein was a pedophile or necessarily knew what he was doing, but many of them obviously did know, and that many of those people are being protected.
Yes. Yeah. And you see conversations about it post-conviction in his emails where he's talking to people, and or it'll be third parties looping him on in a conversation they're having with somebody where they're like, oh, Jeffrey's great, he's fine, it was just one charge, and it wasn't even that big of a deal. And when that person well knows exactly what they were doing, and it's crazy to see the DOJ protect the rich and powerful and then release victims' names that are supposed to be redacted. It's absolutely crazy to see. And I don't know if it's just lack of not doing your job or if it's intentional. Like, did you that email said not to release all these victim names. and then you shot that out there unredacted. Meanwhile, we have entire pages that are redacted. So, like,
Yeah.
was that on purpose? Because that's a pretty big mistake.
I would say it's yes and no. It's designed to create kind of a chaos and panic within the DOJ to, when they're going through the files, what to release, what to not release, but then they just kind of do everything in a rush, and many mistakes creep through. But that kind of chaos is by design, even if like the individual redactions and releases are not necessarily malicious.
That makes sense. Yeah, because you're, you get assigned a role. You're just filtering certain kinds of emails, and you got a deadline to meet. So yeah, I could see that for sure. Man, what a crazy thing! And we've only gotten half of those documents. We're still waiting for the other 3 million.
Yeah. Maybe more.
Maybe more, yeah. And God knows what we're gonna find in there. So it's pretty wild. Well, hey, buddy, I've taken up enough of your time today. Thank you so much for hanging out, man. This is awesome catching up with you. We're definitely gonna have to do this sooner and not wait as long next time.
Thanks.
Thanks for stopping by, buddy. Everyone else, thanks for hanging out with us. Louise Cayetano, always a pleasure. Y'all are watching the Gabriel Speaks podcast. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend.